I want to start by telling you something most therapists don't say in their introduction videos. I've been in therapy myself, twice, not as a training requirement, because life got hard enough that I needed to sit across from someone and do the work. My name is Anne. I'm a licensed mental health counselor and clinical supervisor. I've worked in community mental health, hospital settings, crisis intervention, and for the past several years, telehealth. I'm also a grandmother, a fitness devotee, a depth psychology nerd who reads James Hollis for fun, and someone who has had to use every tool I'm going to teach you in this series on myself. This channel is called Your Mind, Your Move, because in a world that feels increasingly out of control, the one thing you can always work with is right here. I think of life as a river, not because it's peaceful, rivers aren't, but because you're always in it, it's always moving, and the current doesn't stop because you're not ready. The question is never whether uncertainty is there. It is. The question is whether you have the skills to navigate it. Your mind is your greatest navigation tool. That's what this channel is about. I've worked with people in their 20s who couldn't figure out why they felt so stuck, paddling hard but going nowhere. People in their 30s who had everything that was supposed to make them happy and still felt like they were drifting. People caught in the rapids, white knuckling it, exhausted from fighting the current. And I know that territory from the inside, not just from the chair across the room. What I kept seeing in my clients and in myself was this. The problem usually wasn't a lack of effort. It was that people were fighting the river instead of learning to read it, exhausting themselves on the current instead of developing the navigation skills that actually move you forward. James Hollis, a Jungian analyst whose work has shaped how I think about my own life, once wrote that most people come to therapy not because they're broken, but because their old strategies have stopped working. I think about that a lot because that's exactly what brought me to therapy both times. Not crisis, just the honest recognition that what I was doing wasn't enough anymore. I also trained in something called Cultivating Emotional Balance, a program developed through the collaboration of emotion scientist Dr. Paul Ekman and contemplative scholars. 5 weeks in Spain. It changed how I understand my own emotional life, not just my clients. I'm telling you this because I want you to know who is on the other side of this screen. Not a credential, a person, someone who has been in her own rough water, who has sat with her own anxiety, her own seasons of low mood, her own hard stretches of river, and who found through this work a way to navigate that actually held. There are a lot of people out on the river right now with no oars. Maybe it's cost. Maybe it's stigma. Maybe they've tried to find a therapist and couldn't get in. Maybe they just don't know that what they're feeling has a name and that there are real evidence-based approaches that can genuinely help. That's why I built Your Mind, Your Move, not to replace therapy, but to give people the navigation tools they need wherever they are on the river, whatever water they're in right now. The approach I use is called ACT, Acceptance and Commitment Therapy, woven through with cultivating emotional balance practices and the wisdom of depth psychology. Together, these frameworks are your navigation system. They don't promise to calm the river. They teach you how to read it, how to work with it, and how to move toward the life you actually want, even in fast water. Each episode gives you one navigation skill, taught clearly, with real-life examples and a guided practice. At the end, you can use the moment you close your laptop. Reading your emotional water before the rapids appear. Diffusion, watching thoughts float past without being swept away by them. Acceptance, learning to work with the current instead of against it. Values, knowing which bank is worth navigating toward. These aren't tips, they're navigation skills. And they can be learned by anyone willing to pick up the oars. If you're here because something in your life is hard right now, I'm genuinely glad you found this. You don't have to navigate alone. And you don't have to wait until you're in the rapids to learn the skills that steady you. This is Your Mind, Your Move. Start with episode 1. I'll see you there.